Jury entering.
All right, all of our jurors are here. Please be seated. Morning, everyone. Happy Friday. We're going to continue now with the cross-examination of Mr. Goodwin. Officer, can you call in Mr. Goodwin, please? We're going to re-administer the oath. Mr. Goodwin, we need to re-administer the oath this morning since we broke for the day. Left hand on the Bible, please raise your right hand.
Do you swear in the presence of Almighty God that the testimony you give to this court regarding this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Robert Goodwin, Goodwin.
Thank you.
All right, you may have a seat, Mr. Goodwin. Counsel?
Mr. Goodwin, when we broke yesterday, we were talking about the secret recordings that you and Lauren Kanarek made. Do you recall that conversation?
I do.
And so I'm clear, you, Lauren Kanarek, and her father knew that you were secretly recording conversations, correct?
I know.
Does Lauren know?
I mean, I think she was aware at some point, yes.
Well, wasn't it Lauren's idea to secretly record these conversations?
But it was my idea.
Did you talk to her about your idea?
May have brought it up.
You may have.
May have brought it up after I ordered.
When did you bring it up?
I'm not sure the date.
Did you discuss the recordings with her father?
I'm sure I may have.
And did you have a discussion with anyone prior to starting those recordings as to whether or not they were legal?
Objection.
What's the relevance, Mr. Blankus? Move on. That question is stricken. Move on.
Now, you testified yesterday that every single recording that you made in the stable area, and I'm referring to that big building that includes where the horses are housed, the club room, and the office, were made from Lauren Kanarek's locker.
Yeah, or in my pocket in transport.
Okay? Now, did you meet with an attorney, Edward David, on August 6th?
I did.
And did you discuss with him these recordings?
I do not recall.
You have no recollection of discussing?
I do not.
I show you D100R1, which is a transcript of a recording that you made, and ask you to take a look at that and see if that refreshes your recollection as to, on August 6th, at the lawyer's office, did you and Lauren talk about these recordings?
I mean, this isn't the whole transcript, so.
I understand that. But does that refresh your recollection as to whether or not you, Lauren Kanarek, and her father were in a lawyer's office discussing these recordings?
Judge, for the record, while Mr. Goodwin's reading, that is pages 48 and 49 of 128, just so the record's clear.
Have you reviewed the transcript, Mr. Goodwin?
Just one more page, sorry. I want to read the whole thing.
Did you finish?
I did.
All right, Mr. Goodwin, finish. Ask a question.
Does that refresh your recollection as to whether or not you, Lauren Kanarek, her father, and the attorney were talking about your secret recordings?
Yeah, they were speaking about it. I mentioned,
No, not what you mentioned. Just, it's a yes or no
Yes, I was-
question.
I was-
Just answer and
I
then
was
wait
in the
for the
wrong.
follow-up question.
And during that meeting, did Lauren Kanarek mention that she had a recording or the recordings were made in her locker, as you have testified to?
yes, I put the recordings in our locker.
Okay, and Lauren Kanarek tells that to the lawyer, correct?
Yes.
And then after she says that, did you say, at least that recording anyway, ha ha?
And then I took the paper. I'm sorry, where is it? Oh, there it is. That says speaker one, I don't know if that's me.
For the record, that
Judge,
is.
I'll stipulate for
Yes.
purposes of this
All
exercise
right.
that that is Mr. Goodwin's voice.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there is a stipulation that speaker one, as referenced by Mr. Goodwin, is in fact Mr. Goodwin. It's just not labeled as such in the transcript.
Okay.
It's labeled speaker one, but it is in fact, according to the stipulations,
Good
Mr.
question.
Goodwin speaking.
Did you make that statement?
Says I did, yes.
Now, yesterday, you were asked by the prosecutor whether or not you owned a gun, correct?
Correct.
And your answer was no, correct?
Correct.
Did you ever post a picture of a 9mm handgun on your Facebook account?
Perhaps.
Can we be heard at sidebar, Your Honor?
Sure.
I show you what has been marked D100A3, which is a Facebook record of your account. And ask you to take a look at that.
Do we have a date, Mr. Belinkis?
Yes, Judge.
For context, please.
February 22nd, 2018, and there's a picture that attached to it. Can you look at both of those, please?
Jack?
Did you post a picture of a 9mm handgun on that day?
It appears to be, yes.
When you say it appears to be,
I don't remember the post.
did you indicate in the comment section regarding that gun that there were bullets for that gun?
I did.
Now, you indicated yesterday that you're not really familiar with guns, correct?
I don't know if I said I was unfamiliar with them or I'm not a gun guy.
What's the difference in your mind?
I mean, I've used guns before. I know how to use a gun. I know about gun safety.
For instance, you're a Marine, correct?
Correct.
You were trained with respect to weapons, correct?
Correct.
And hand-to-hand combat, correct?
Correct.
Yesterday, on direct examination, you said you turned off your blink cameras, correct?
Correct.
When did you do that?
I don't recall when I was going up and down the hallway.
How many days before the shooting?
I think the camera was hooked up for one day.
And when did you hook it up approximately?
So the day before the shooting. And sometime during that afternoon, I turned it off.
The day before the shooting?
No, sometime that day of the shooting.
The shooting occurred somewhere around 2 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall receiving at approximately 1:42 a clip from your blank camera.
No. Why would I recall that?
Mr. Goodwin, I show you D100C14-1 and refer you to August 7th. Can you look at those notations on there?
This is obviously really small.
Judge, can we be heard at sidebar while the witness is looking at that?
Is there,
Sure.
do we have a magnifying glass or?
Want my glasses?
Mr. Blinkus, clarify your last question, please.
Sure. Mr. Goodwin. You have no idea, according to your testimony, correct me if I'm wrong, that when you turned off this blink camera, correct?
Correct. I stated that I was going through the hallway. Lauren was sitting outside, so the camera was making notification sounds constantly. So I turned it off sometime during that.
Now, the day that the town came, which was August 6th, and kicked Michael Barisone out of the stable, on that day, the camera was working, correct?
I don't recall specifically.
Okay, well, didn't you send a clip of Ruth Cox entering the farmhouse to Lauren Kanarek on the 7th?
It's probably so.
Well, I'll show you 100C14-1 and ask if that refreshes your recollection.
Is it the bottom one we're talking about?
Well, how many of them are there on there?
Tell me what.
Well, are you refreshing his recollection? Point him to,
You made a question.
well, I understand that because he was confused. So if you're asking him to refresh his recollection with a specific item on a page full of them, point out which lines. He's obviously asking what line.
Do it the bottom half as well.
Yeah, well, just, again, if you look at this and this, as to who you sent it to, who did you send the blink clip from the 6th to?
This is here my number and Lauren's number.
Okay. And now that you see this document, do you recall
I mean, it's a very
having
good
a
possibility.
blink video of some image on the 6th that you sent to Lauren County?
Yeah, I specifically remember the video where Ruth came into my house.
Okay. So on the 6th, we know it was working, correct?
Correct.
Now, right before the shooting, did you hear Lauren Kanarek say to Michael Barisone something about
Objection. It's hearsay.
the day right before the shooting, Judge? I think it's part of the entire matter.
Good.
It's not hearsay, it's what happened. Mr. Goodwin, after you had your conversation with Michael Barison on the day in question, right before the shooting, your girlfriend, Lauren Kanarek, comes outside, correct?
Correct.
She walks past you, correct?
Correct.
Did you hear any conversation between her and Michael Barison?
I did.
And what did you hear?
Not word for word, but I think she wanted to figure out how we could fix it, how we could fix the situation.
Lauren said she wanted to fix it, or Michael Barison said?
No, Michael spoke to me, and then
Right.
Lauren said, I'll talk to him, you know, if he wants to fix it.
Okay, she said that to you or to Michael Barison?
She said, I'll talk to him to me.
And
She didn't get to say much to Michael before he pulled up the gun. He wasn't there for a conversation. He was there to kill
All
him.
right, hold on. Don't, just answer the question, okay?
Yep.
Okay,
Go ahead.
when you say she didn't say much, I'm asking you specifically, you were right there, correct?
I think she got in the middle of a sentence and he shot her.
What was she saying at the time she was shot?
I'm not 100% sure.
Well, irrespective of whether you're sure or
No,
not.
he said he's not sure. What do you want him to say?
Did you ever tell the police in your official statement that night that Lauren Kanarek spoke to Michael Barison?
She did. I'm saying I'm not sure what she said.
My question is, did you tell the police that Lauren Kanarek said anything to Barison before he shot her?
I'm not 100% sure.
Now, this arrangement that was made with regards to trading your work for living accommodations, at some point in time, did you give Michael Barison a bill for your work?
Before the shooting, no.
Did you discuss with Lauren Kanarek and her father you giving Barison a bill for your work?
I definitely discussed with Lauren, since the horses that were supposed to be there a good time before actually the one horse got there, saying I'd like to get caught up and send him a bill since the horses did not come.
And did Lauren tell you that if you did that, you would undermine our entire plan and ruin everything?
What's that?
Did Lauren tell you in response to that, that if you did, you would undermine their entire plan and ruin everything?
I think what was mentioned when we talked about the bill was that she wanted to use that for training of the horses. So she did not want me to give a bill. She wanted to train the horses.
And do you recall her telling you that if you did, you would ruin your plan with her?
I just said what I recalled.
1653. Look up here. No, let me see. 6302. All right, here.
I show you what is marked D200C27 and ask you to refer to item 6303. And I'm going to give you my glasses here. 6303. Can you read that and tell me if it refreshes your recollection as to whether or not
Okay.
Judge, he's already answered this question.
But I'm not sure what memory is being refreshed here, Mr. Belenkus. He did answer the
whether
question.
or not he had a conversation with Lauren about if he did this, it would ruin their plan.
He said he did.
He
All right,
didn't say-
that's my recollection, but go ahead.
Does that refresh your recollection as to whether or not you had that conversation with Lauren?
Well, Lauren sent me a text message, and I just explained what I remembered.
Okay. When you had that conversation with Lauren Kanarek, did
Well,
she express?
Hold on. You're referring to a text message?
No, I'm referring to the conversation that he said he remembered having. With regards to that conversation, were you and Lauren Kanarek concerned about you losing your living accommodations on the farm?
Not at all.
Now, did you and Lauren Kanarek and the father have a conversation about scaring Michael Barison?
I don't recall. It's a very vague question.
Did you ever intend on scaring Michael Barison?
I don't know what that refers to.
Making him afraid of Lauren?
I do not believe so.
I show you D200C31. The problem is I can't see when
I know.
I give you my
Sorry.
glasses.
I had them the other day. I didn't need them, so I didn't think I could bring them in.
4914. Can you please look at that?
14.
And that's a conversation between you and the father and Kanarek, Lauren, correct?
When you say conversation, Mr.
Or a text
Belenkus,
message.
let's be clear.
I mean-
Conversation has a certain meaning.
Understood.
All right, so if it's a text message, please refer to it as a text message so there's no confusion for the jurors or for the record. Thank you.
Understood.
Is this a text message to me? Is that what it looks like?
Yes.
So what's the question?
Does that refresh your recollection as to whether or not, in a text message, you, Lauren Kanarek, and her father were discussing having to scare Michael Barisone.
Judge, I have the same objection that this is hearsay.
Has to do with the threat.
Hold on. Sorry.
Mr. Goodwin, were you aware that Lauren Kanarek had gotten access to Michael Barisone's office and taken certain things from it?
I was not aware.
Judge, I'm going to renew the same objection
Yeah.
I made when this was brought up yesterday, and I think you sustained
Aware,
the
I think,
objection.
Judge, I was very.
No, I understand that, and he said no.
Okay, and I tend to use this to impeach him.
Show it to Mr. Shellhorn.
Judge, can we come to sidebar?
Goodwin, I'm going to show you D100C 14-3. Refer you.
Hold on, Mr. Counsel. For the record, the objection was overruled with my limiting instructions.
I'm going to show you a text message from Lauren Kanarek to you on July 11th, 2019. And I'm going to refer you specifically to item number 4844. And ask you to read that to see if it refreshes your recollection with regards to whether or not you were aware that Lauren Kanarek had access to Michael Barisone's office on that day.
I don't know what this is in regards to.
I don't understand your answer.
I
Read the text,
read the text.
and it's your testimony that that doesn't refresh your recollection as to whether or not you were aware
I
that your
don't.
girlfriend had access to Michael Barisone's office.
I don't understand what. I just got access to Michael's office. Did Michael say you could go into my office? I don't understand that.
All right, move on, Mr. Blinkus.
There's no context.
Now, when, to your knowledge, did Michael Barisone or anyone associated with his company ask you and Lauren to leave the property?
I think there was a general sense of wanting us to leave, but I don't think till the attorney was involved is when it was considered serious.
On July 25th, 2019, were you concerned that you were going to be thrown off the property on that day?
I mean, like I said, there's a little bit of tension, but they didn't ask us to leave, I don't think, at that date.
When you say a little bit of tension, would you agree with me that it was a lot more than a little bit?
I could tell you I didn't really understand what the problem was.
Okay, but you did understand that there was in fact a problem with your girlfriend and basically everyone at Michael Barisone's facility. Correct?
I mean, you'd have to ask them, but I understood there to be a problem, which was an uncomfortable situation.
Okay. She had a problem with Justin Harden based on your observations, correct?
But yes, I mean, but they talked afterwards, so no. I mean, are you asking if Justin hated her? I couldn't tell you if Justin.
No,
hated her.
he's not asking that question, and don't speak about
Was there a
that.
problem, based on your observations, between your girlfriend and Justin Harden?
I said she wasn't happy with the way Justin rode Evie, the one horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there a problem, based on your observations, with your girlfriend and Mary Haskins?
There was something going on between them.
Now, when you say something going on, you were aware of numerous Facebook postings that your girlfriend posted disparaging people that worked at the facility, correct?
I mean, I don't think they liked each other.
Okay, but
I can't
not
say
only liked
specific.
each other, but you were aware of certain attacks by your girlfriend on social media against these people, correct?
Somewhat.
Yeah, when you say these people, I'm not sure that's could be a big
I'm talking
universe.
about Michael Barisone and
I thought we were
Mary
talking-
Haskins.
I thought we were talking about Mary Haskins. I'm unclear of what the problem was between those two, so.
Okay. At any point during this situation, did Lauren Kanarek declare war against them, to your knowledge?
I don't know.
How about the father? Do you recall the father ever saying?
Judge, this is.
Yeah, again, this is
hearsay.
hearsay, Mr. Belinkus. Objection sustained.
Now, did Lauren Kanarek ever suggest that you punch Mary Haskins in the face?
Can you rephrase that?
Judge, I think this is hearsay as well.
Is it direct? I'm looking for the next item. You'll agree with me that with respect to everything that was going on, there were communications, either by text message or emails, between you, Lauren Kanarek, and her father throughout the entire time, correct?
It's very, I mean, it's very vague, but yes, there are text threads with me, Lauren, and Jonathan all on.
Like, for instance, with regards to you turning Michael Barisone into the town and having him kicked out of the stables, prior to that, you talked to Lauren Kanarek and the father about that, correct?
I don't recall specifically.
I show you D100C 14-4. Specifically 751. Is that a text message between you, Lauren Kanarek, and the father regarding you going to the town?
The text message from Jonathan.
Jonathan is who?
Oh, Lauren's father.
And it's to both you and Lauren, correct?
Am I reading the right one?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the question?
Does that refresh your recollection as to whether, at least with regards to you turning Michael Barisone into the town and getting him kicked out, that you, Lauren, and the father discussed that in text messages?
I do see the text message here, yes.
And does that refresh your recollection as to whether you talked about that prior to it happening?
I think that is the day that it happened.
But prior to the actual town coming, correct?
I think it's the day I filed. I brought the paper over there.
And they came, what, the next day?
I believe so.
Now, why did you turn Michael Barisone into the town?
All my work throughout the year, I didn't receive one cent. And if he was trying to, if communications broke down to the point where I felt like we were leaving and there was no communication of paying for my services, it was in a, it's kind of a way to repossess my work. I thought they were gonna come in and give him a fine and he was gonna have to pay it and then go through inspection processes. And when we first started this process, especially at the barn, I told Michael, as the owner, he can pull permits legally. He doesn't need to be a licensed contractor.
I show you 100E2. Is this the letter that you brought to the town?
It is.
And who wrote this letter, you or Lauren?
I dictated to Lauren.
indicated that you sent this letter because at that point you didn't think you were going to get paid for your work? Is that the reason?
There were several reasons.
What are the other reasons?
One, the fire hazard with a barn that was left on overnight, and the refusal to turn it off while the girl was heading up to sleep. And then code violations.
And you've been working there for a year and a half. Why all of a sudden did code violations bother you?
It's not right, my responsibility to file permits, it's the owners.
My question is, why did you wait a year and a half to file this letter with the town?
I just told you our deal was not going through, so there was no payment, no form of payment for my work.
Had you hadn't given Michael Barisone a bill, correct?
No.
You're sure of that?
The agreement was trade for the trading of the horses. You brought it up earlier that Lauren wasn't happy with that deal.
And when you say the agreement, trading for the horses, the whole time you were living in his house, free of charge, other than what's paid for boarding horses, correct?
The agreement to live in the house was to upend our lives, to go train with Michael from the original agreement of bringing the 2 horses, all inclusive.
When you say upend your lives, isn't it a fact that Lauren Kanarek saw the possibility of training with a world-class dressage Olympian was to her advantage?
To her advantage, maybe.
You're asking him about Ms. Canarek's state of mind?
You just made a statement as to why he came
Right,
here.
upend our lives, so.
Upend our lives. Would it be better for your life, specifically?
Not at all.
Were you living in nicer accommodations up there?
In North Carolina, yes.
Now, I show you D100E 1A. Isn't it a fact that on June 18th, you submitted a bill, June 18th, 2019, you submitted a bill to Michael Barison for your work.
That was not submitted, no.
Did you write that up?
I did write that up.
Why would you write up a bill and not submit it to Barison?
The text message you referred to from Lauren about not giving the bill, that's why he didn't get the bill.
So you agreed with your girlfriend not to charge him for the work that you were doing, correct?
I agreed not to receive cash payment, correct?
And that was your choice at that point, correct?
It's a mutual decision between me and Lauren, I believe. Is that accurate?
And then when problems become, isn't it a fact that you tried to collect $50,000 for your work?
I think the number was in the 20s, but I'm not exactly sure.
Are you aware of the fact
Judge,
that...
I'm going to object.
Let me see it. Objection sustained. I don't find it relevant under 401 and excludable under 403 as well.
Mr. Goodwin, on August 6th, were you notified that Michael Barisone's lawyer had sent a letter telling you and Lauren to get out of the home?
Are you asking if I was aware of it August 6th?
Yes.
I'm not 100% certain.
Were you aware that strike that, August 5th? Were you aware that Michael Barisone's attorney sent a letter to Lauren and her father telling them to get out?
Again, I'm not aware exactly of August 5th or what date we received the letter from the attorney.
Okay, but you will agree with me that on August 5th is the day you went to the town to try to get him kicked out of his
August
living area.
5th is when I dropped the letter off, correct?
Were you aware that a formal eviction complaint was served on August 6th?
I was not. I don't think there was any eviction taking place.
Now, when the town came on August 6th, the day before the shooting, did you show them different areas and point things out to them?
I do not believe so.
Did you talk about, strike that, did you personally talk to town officials about specific items?
I believe when there was a discussion on August 5th when I dropped off the letter.
And who did you have that discussion with?
One of the clerks.
And you were one of the contractors working, correct?
I was doing some construction there.
When you say you were doing construction, weren't you doing tens of thousands of dollars of work for Michael Barisone in exchange for you being able to live there and board horses?
So apparently I was doing free construction.
You admit that?
No. Sorry. Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Apparently I did construction that I did not get paid for 1 cent.
And that was something that Lauren and her dad agreed to have you do with Michael Barisone, correct?
Not correct.
Well, for instance, when you wanted to submit a bill, it was Lauren, not Michael Barisone, that convinced you not to submit that bill, correct?
Lauren talked me into accepting another form of payment, but as I said yesterday, in Florida, me and Michael discussed whatever's left over can go towards payment towards me.
Well, when you say leftover, would you agree that?
Well, the horses,
Would you agree that on the day of the shooting, the farmhouse was far from being fully completed?
so were the apartments that Michael was building above the barn for 2 years. Doesn't mean no work took place during that time.
Did you ever specifically instigate shit with Michael?
I don't know what we're referring to.
Did you ever attempt to instigate an altercation with Michael Barisone at any point?
Did I instigate it? I do not attempt to instigate. I don't believe so.
I show you what has been marked 100C14-5 and ask you if this refreshes your recollection. And I'm referring you to item 199, first text on top.
Ed, you-
Chris, do you have a copy for the prosecutor?
This is a text from Lauren, I believe, right?
Right. I'm just asking you, does that refresh your recollection as to whether or not you ever intentionally tried to instigate an altercation with Michael Barison?
No, I don't know what that's in reference to.
Did you ever threaten Ruth Cox?
No.
You never threatened her at the barn, telling her that she was gonna go down?
Objection, Judge?
Malinkus, please rephrase your question.
Do you remember an instance up at this stable area where you got into an argument with Michael Barison?
I remember one instance, yep.
And was Ruth Cox there?
No, I don't believe so.
You don't have any recollection of a threat being made where Michael Barisone and Ruth Cox are together?
I don't believe Ruth Cox was there when me and Michael had an argument about JT the horse and not going to the show.
Did you get very loud and were you yelling with regards to that?
We were both loud and yelling.
I'm referring to you. Did you get loud and were you screaming at Michael Barison?
I got loud.
Now, with regards to your discussions with Lauren Kanarek and the father about calling the town and getting Michael Barisone kicked out of the area that he was now living in, did you tell them well, let's hope this doesn't backfire on me? Did you make that statement?
That is correct, and at the time I wasn't 100%, I was in the clear when I filed the report.
Now, you're currently suing Michael Barison, correct?
Objection.
No.
You already ruled on this, Your Honor.
I'm not talking about construction, Judge.
Don't specify what you're talking about then.
Are you suing Michael Barison for anything related to the shooting?
Me? No,
You're not involved in that lawsuit?
not at all.
Now, were you aware of Lauren Kanarek's plan at any point in time prior to the shooting, her plan to destroy Michael Barison?
No,
Did Michael Barison ever threaten you?
oh, I don't think so.
Did Michael Barison, to your knowledge, ever threaten Lauren Kanarek?
I'm not sure.
Well, didn't you tell the police no, that he never threatened Lauren Kanarek?
What you're talking about in his presence.
Any knowledge that he has? Do you have any knowledge?
I'm not sure.
Do you have any knowledge whatsoever from any source that Michael Barison ever threatened Lauren Kanarek?
Nothing's coming to my mind, but that I believe would be a question for Lauren.
You guys have been together for how long?
Very long time.
And I assume you talk about things on a daily basis?
Would be correct.
Did Lauren Kanarek ever mention to you that her life was being threatened?
Again, I do not recall that specifically. Got a question for Lauren, I believe.
Now, on the morning of the 7th, did you have an altercation with the blacksmith?
I don't believe so.
Did you get into an argument with him?
Blacksmith's name?
Arnie Gervasio.
I do not believe so, no. I don't think I've ever had a bad moment with Arnie.
Did you see Arnie on the morning of the shooting?
I don't recall.
Was there an instance where,
Judge, he's already indicated multiple times he doesn't recall.
did you attempt to have,
If there's a way to refresh his recollection, but I would object to any specific questions being asked where he's just said that he doesn't have any recollection.
Judge, if I can ask some
Let me
questions?
see. Let me see that sidebar. hold on. Come on. One of the jurors stated.
Mr. Goodwin, we're talking about August 7th, 2019, the day of the shooting. Is it your testimony that you don't recall having an issue with the farrier, the blacksmith, on that morning?
No, I do not specifically remember seeing or talking to the farrier.
I'm going to show you D100C-15, which is a text message from your phone to Lauren Kanarek. And can you look at item 8 and 9?
From Barney Rossi.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
Okay, it appears that Evie might have supposed to get shot that day. I think I know what this is.
Okay, and does that refresh your recollection about there being a issue with the farrier blacksmith on that day?
It was a very, very simple issue. They may have been scheduled to put shoes on our horses, and I guess from what I recall is that Michael told him not to shoe our horses anymore.
And when Michael, right there, when the farrier told you that Michael said not to shoe the horses, did you make a physical threat against Michael Barisone?
I do not recall. I do not recall specifically.
Did you communicate this issue and problem to Lauren Kanarek on that day?
I'm sure I may have spoke about her horses not being shod that day.
What-
That's a possibility.
When you say it's a possibility,
I don't-
doesn't your text directly address that issue with Lauren Kanarek?
I see the text. I do not specifically remember the text or sending the text on that day, but I can see it's there.
And during that discussion, did Lauren Kanarek tell you to finish the bastard, meaning Michael Barisone?
Objection.
Don't answer.
No, give him my
No,
glasses, Judge. Thank you.
sorry. Objection sustained.
Now, with all the recording that you were doing in the stable area, were you aware that Michael Barisone had hired a debugging company to try to find the recordings?
How would I be aware of that?
So your answer is no?
No. no.
Just answer the question, please.
Were you aware that he hired a private security guard to sit in his truck at night and guard the stable area?
No.
You never saw a guy's truck outside all night long? In front or the side of the stable?
I've seen a car. I believe Lauren called 911 at the time it was going up there, but no, I was never up there at that time to witness a security guard or know a security guard was there.
Did you hear them talking about hiring a security guard?
I cannot recall.
Now, with regards to the incident, when Michael Barisone came down from the stable area, you were on the telephone with your lawyer, correct?
Correct.
Were you planning on filing a lawsuit against Michael Barisone before the shooting?
I think the purpose of the attorney was to work out and continue our original deal that we had. I mean,
When you say the original deal, everything had deteriorated to the point of no return, correct?
that is true.
And it's your testimony that the reason you called the attorney was to try to keep things going at the facility?
I mean, I'm not sure what the arrangement between Lauren and the attorney was. I mean, she was
Well, did
more
you-
involved with it than I was.
Okay, and why did you call the attorney on that day?
I think he called me.
All right, so you're on the phone with the attorney and you're upstairs in the bedroom, correct?
Correct.
And at some point, you hear Lauren calling for you, correct?
Correct.
Now, at that point, nothing had happened, correct?
No, she was informing me that Michael was there.
Okay, when you say informing you, was she screaming?
She said, "Rob, Michael's here."
And did that cause you any concern?
No.
Even in light of the fact that you got him kicked out of the stable, did you think about that?
I mean, concern about him murdering us? No. I mean, confrontation? Yes. I mean, at that point, I didn't know he was at the house, though, either.
Okay.
You know, she said Michael was here, and that's all
Well,
I didn't understand any context of, what it was. I came downstairs.
and when you use the term confrontation, you saw a confrontation between Michael Barisone and your girlfriend on a previous occasion, correct?
I don't know what that's in reference to.
Did you ever see your girlfriend get into Michael Barisone's face, push him back 20 feet to his car, him trying to leave, and her grabbing his door, shutting it, refusing to allow him to leave? Did you
I don't think I was present if that happened.
You never saw that?
Judge, you ruled on this yesterday.
Yeah, move on, Mr. Belinkus.
So, Lauren Kanarek says, Michael is here. And you're still on the phone with the attorney, correct?
Correct.
You walk down, you open the door, and you step onto the landing, correct?
That's correct.
Now, prior to you walking outside, did you hand the phone to Lauren?
I did at the bottom of the steps before we came outside. We were pretty much either somewhere in the laundry room or right as I got down the steps from my apartment.
Okay, so when you say down the steps, you're talking about the steps inside, not outside, correct?
Correct.
So Lauren is inside at this point. You walk out onto the landing on top of the steps in the back of the house, correct?
Correct.
Did you shut the door?
I think Lauren may have shut the door. I don't know. She was right behind me.
Okay. And according to you, Michael says, can't we work this out? I don't want to go to war.
Correct.
Now,
Or how can we work this out? I don't want a war.
okay. Now, would you agree with me that when he said that, he was calm?
I agree. You look normal. Yes.
You've described him as sorrowful, correct?
Excuse me.
You've described him as sorrowful. Isn't that a fact?
I do not believe so. I don't know what we're referring to.
Okay. At which point in time you say something to the effect, lawyers are involved, they'll resolve it, correct?
I said that he brought lawyers into it so the lawyers can handle it.
Now, at that point in time, you turn your back and start walking away from Michael Barisone, correct?
Not at all.
When did Lauren Kanarek come outside?
Well, I think she was behind me. She said she'll go talk to him. She wanted to try to, I guess, work something out.
When you say work something out,
I don't know what it was in regards to.
would you agree with me that at that point she was pissed off before she even said anything to Barison?
Are you asking how I feel? What Lauren's?
No, I'm asking you your observations of Lauren Kanarek. Was she angry?
No, she wanted to. I don't know what she was trying to work out. I mean, in my mind, there was nothing to work out. But she said, she wanted to work something out. I guess she at least wanted to hear what he had to say.
Did she casually walk down to talk to him, or did she stomp her way towards him?
She walked over to him. She came down the steps and walked over towards him.
Okay, and did you go into the house?
I stayed there on the porch watching the conversation, or watching what I thought was going to be a conversation.
So, after the shooting, she didn't run up the stairs, open the door, and yell to you not to come out,
Can you say that again?
okay? After you talked to Michael Barison and Lauren Kanarek walked down the stairs to talk to Michael, did she, after that, walk up the stairs, open the door, and tell you don't come out?
No.
Were you present when she made her statement to the prosecutor's office?
No.
Did you talk to her about the events and what happened on that night prior to her giving the statement to the prosecutor?
We did not. I know, we've talked many times about the incident. It was a very life-changing incident, and unfortunately, I will never forget or get over. So, I mean, I don't understand. Did I coach her, are you saying? I don't understand
I'm
what
not
you're
asking her
me.
coaching her, but before she went to talk to the prosecutor and give her official version of the event,
I don't think so. I was instructed, I think, not to.
by who?
By the police, I believe.
When?
I don't know. Lauren was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Sometimes in that 3 weeks, I think I was told somewhere along the line not to discuss, you know.
And it's your testimony that after she got out of the hospital and came home, that you and her never talked about that day, what happened, who did what each other's recollection was.
I just said I'm not sure specifically what was talked about and when was talked about it, but it was a major life-changing event that Lauren unfortunately will have to live with problems for the rest of her life because a man shot her 2 times unprovoked,
Okay.
tried to kill me and her.
And so, as far as your recollection is concerned, you have no recollection of Lauren, after you talked to Michael, coming to the back door, opening up, and yelling for you not to come out.
I was outside. I witnessed the whole thing.
Now, when you say you witnessed the whole thing, didn't you tell the police you heard the shots?
Of course I heard the shots. I also watched the shots.
Mr. Belinkus, is this a good time to take our morning recess?
Yes,
It's
Judge.
10 of 11. All right. Very good, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our 15-minute morning recess. We'll resume about 5 after 11 or as close as possible. Thank you. You can step outside. Just stay down this end of the hallway, all right,
Sure.
Mr. Goodwin? Thank you. And don't discuss the case with anyone else.